Oh man, what time is it? Oh my. Welcome back to another chapter of Swedz C# diary. Today we will step by step code a pixel triggerbot. This pixel triggerbot is insanely overpowered for its simplicity. You find a corner, hold your crosshair at the opening and let the triggerbot do the rest. When an enemy comes in contact with the crosshair, the triggerbot will perform a mouse click and shoot the enemy. If you want to access the source code without having to follow the tutorial, then take a look at my Buy Me a Coffee page. Here you can find the source code of most of my new videos, which even includes an aimbot, ESP and skin changer for CSGO. If you have any problems, then write it down in the comments or join the Discord. As a final thought, don't use this against real players. Be nice. You can get banned. Alright, so let's test it in the game Counter-Strike Global Offensive. Or Offensive. I'm starting it. I've chosen the hotkey to be X button 2, which is mouse 5 in this case. So you can see our X button 2. Let's go in game. Here on the map aimbots, we can see that the enemies move from left to right. Now let's check if our pixel triggerbot, color triggerbot works. So holding the key down now, and it directly shot when the enemy came in front of it. Would you look at that? The values. To your liking. So you would just hold an angle like this and just wait for them to walk in front of it. And once again, we're at the desktop. And today, as you have seen, we will create the pixel triggerbot. So, as usual, we will create a new project within Microsoft Visual Studio, and it will be a Windows Forms app. So install Visual Studio and the C# development components for this tutorial. We will double click on the Win form. We will name the project something, whatever you want. I'll call it Pixelbot. And for the framework, use the .NET 6. Alright, so the designer page. The only thing we will change here is the text of the form. Let's change it to pixel triggerbot, and we will add a label which will contain text about which hotkey is used for the pixel triggerbot. But that's it. So double click after that on the form to get the form load function, and here we will start coding. So we need a couple of imports for this tutorial, but it's only 2, so it's not that big a deal. The first one is the hotkey, so it will be a DLL import. It's from the user 32. Here it will throw an error. That's because we don't have system.runtime.interrupt services. We add that and it should be fine, as you can see. The function name is called getAsync key state, and the parameters we can use the enums of keys, or the Windows keys. So it makes it a bit easier for us. We can just choose the hotkey by keys instead of integers. So the second import will also be user32.dealer, and it will be an static extern void called mouse event. This will be used for the mouse click. So it's a mouse event, a mouse click event. It will have a uint dv flags, an integer dx, integer dy, uint dv data, and then an int pointer dv extra information. So the only thing that is important for us is the dv flags. Everything else is not that important for us in this tutorial. But we're done with the imports. Now we can declare some constants. So we have left down, which is the mouse key left down, which equals to 0, 2 in hex. We have another constant, which is the left down or left up. So a mouse click requires a button click down and a mouse up movement. So the mouse up will be 0, 4 in X. We're done with the constant. Let's create some user variables. The first one will be called X and will be the X coordinate for. Alright, back. I got some company, but the integer X will be the screen.primaryscreen.bounds.width divided by 2 and plus 1. So we get the middle of the screen by dividing the width by 2, and to not get the exact pixel in the middle, we add 1 to it, so we get an offset. If we have a crosshair in game, it will be on the crosshair if we don't add this last addition. So since we have an X, we need a Y value, and it will be the primary screen.bounds.height and divided by 2 plus 1, exactly like before. We have a hotkey that we want to use, and we will use keys. The name will be hotkey. Here you can choose whatever key you want. You can scroll through these to find it, or because I know I want to use the X button 2 as my hotkey. This is the mouse 5 key. So X button 1 is the mouse 4, and so on. The last variable will be the coordinates, but with the data type point. And we just leave it like that. Now we have declared all of the important imports and variables. Now we will create some small methods, but useful ones. They will represent the DLL imports. So we will use our own methods instead of the imports directly. The first one will be the perform click. This will perform a mouse click. It will take int X and an int Y. Everything that it does will be using the imports. So here it will use mouse event, and here we have mouse down. No, it was left down, my bad. It will use left down, and then X, and then Y, and then 0, and then int pointer dot 0. There we go. So we send a left down. Now we will wait for 2 milliseconds, and then we will send a left up, because we need, for us to press it down, we need to also let it go up. So it will be x, y, 0 and int pointer dot 0. And that's it. So we have our mouse click. Now we need a method for our hotkey. And that's even easier. We will have a method that has the return type bool or a boolean. It will be called key pressed. As the parameters, we will have keys and the key or virtual key. So here we will return get async key state, which is the import, and our key, and less than 0, because when it's less than 0, it means we're pressing down. So we'll just return it as a boolean and get true or false instead of short. Okay, let's create some methods to get the color of the pixel in the middle of the screen and a method that compares two colors by their closeness. So the first method will be the color get color at. This will take a point coordinates and it will use a bitmap. We'll call it pixel container, and that will equal a new bitmap with the size of 1 by 1 height, width and height, which means it's 1 pixel. Now within this pixel container we will also create a graphics object. So graphics g equals, and then we take the graphics from the pixel container. So from image and the pixel container, and we copy the pixel or the color and so on, the graphics from the pixels on screen into our pixel container. So coordinates, and then a point of empty, because we don't need that upper left destination argument, but we need the block region size, which would be the pixel container dot size. There we go. Now that we have the pixel and all of its graphics, we will return the pixel container dot get pixel. This will return the color of a certain pixel, and it's the first pixel. Now we will create the method of comparing two colors. So just minimize that, and we will create a new method. It will return a boolean, a true or false, and it will return true if the two colors are close together, and false if they aren't. So if they aren't close, we will perform the trigger or the click. So we will call it bool are colors close. It will take in a color 1 and a color 2, but it will also take in a max color difference. This is the way we can tell if the colors are close by this integer. So how can we check if two colors are close in the color spectrum, or whatever you want to call it? And I thought it was hard, but it's actually pretty easy. And the way to do it is, or one way to do it, is by creating a variable for all of the colors in the RGB scheme. Red, we'll call it red diff for difference, and we will just subtract the color, or from color 1 dot red the color 2 dot red, and we have the red difference, and in absolute values. We will do the same for the green and blue. Green diff math dot abs color 1.g because it's green now, and I don't know what that is. Let's remove those unnecessary parentheses. We finally have the blue diff, which equals math.abs color 1.blue minus color 2.blue. And if all of these differences are within our max difference, we'll say it's close. So return red diff is less or equals the max color difference. And the next one is the green diff, and next one is the blue difference. So if they all are within the max color difference, it will return true, and they are close in match. Now we're done with all of the methods that are outside the main logic method, and we can pursue and create the main logic method. So we'll call it, for less of a, or because I don't have a better name for it, background logic. It will have no parameters, and inside this background logic method we will create a while loop that always runs because it's in the background, and we will check for a hotkey. So key pressed, our method. We have our hotkey, and that makes it really easy. So if our hotkey is pressed, we will create a new boolean which is called color changed. This will be set to false in the beginning, and we will change it when the color changes. So we will need a color that it collects at the first point of the button press, which we will call old color. We will use the get color at method and use our coordinates. That should be coordinates, and while the color hasn't changed, so this exclamation mark means while this is false, we will get a new color from the screen. So var new color, so we'll use the get color at again and the coordinates, and we will check if the colors are close in match. So we will use our colors close, and we will use the old color and the new color, and we will need the color difference. So you will need to change this according to your game, because if it has colors that don't change that much, like Counter-Strike, you don't need that high of a value, but you also don't want to set it too high because then it won't react, because the colors are similar enough. So we will check if this is false. I think we can just do this again, the exclamation mark, like that, and inside, or if it's true, then the color changed. So outside of this while loop, we will once again change or check if our key is pressed. Key pressed, our hotkey, and if our hotkey is pressed even after the colors changed, we will perform the click. But we need a reaction time for our trigger bot. So I'll just set it to 20 milliseconds. It might be better to set this to a larger value. But after that, we can finally perform our wanted click. So now it clicks when the color changes. All right, we have the method, but it doesn't run yet. And because we don't want to freeze our Windows forms, we will have to create a thread for that. So go to the load method in the form. Let me just find it. That's my bad. There we go. We will give the coordinates a new value, a new point, and then the x and y. I've chosen to declare the values like this because you might want to change these according to your game, because you can choose a different resolution for a game rather than your screen. So, but we also want to set the check for illegal cross-thread calls to false, because otherwise we can't change the label from the thread. So when we have done that, we can set, or actually I don't think it, yeah, well, whatever, who cares now. We'll set the label 1.text to trigger hotkey, and then an arrow, then the hotkey.toString plus another arrow from a different angle. So we will write out the hotkey, then we will proceed to create a new thread, and within this thread we will use our background logic. We will have it run in the background, and we will finally start it. So if everything went according to plan, this should be fine to use now. So I'm starting it. I've chosen the hotkey to be X button 2, which is mouse 5 in this case. So you can see our X button 2. Let's go in game. Here on the map aim bots, we can see that the enemies move from left to right. Now let's check if our pixel trigger bot, color trigger bot works. So holding the key down now, and it directly shot when the enemy came in front of it. Would you look at that? So it should also work with weapons that don't have a big crosshair. So I held it down there and it shot the enemy. But let's have it, let's make them closer so we can aim at the head. I think it's a bit too fast actually, but you can change the values to your liking. So you would just hold an angle like this and just wait for them to walk in front of it. Now you can change the settings, change the code to whatever you like, to fit your game, to fit your preferences. But I think that's it for me, guys. Thank you for watching. Thank you for commenting, and see you guys later.